Look, I've been a fan of the game for a long period of time. And, when we first started this whole process, I've always said that I want to fight for the betterment of the sport. Even though they try to point out that, we made some money, or we had a successful business, that's not the point. The point is that the sport itself needs to continually change for the better, for the fans as well as for the teams, as well as for NASCAR too, if they understand that. So I feel like we made a good statement today about that. And look, I look forward to going down with fire. If I have to fight this to the end for the betterment of the sport, I will do that.
It's been another explosive week in the ongoing battle between 23XI Racing, Front Row Motorsports, and NASCAR. If you've been following this saga, you know that the stakes have only gotten higher. This legal battle isn't just about the future of two major teams. It could reshape the future of the entire NASCAR Cup Series. Today, we're diving into the latest developments in this high-stakes fight that's become one of the most critical cases in NASCAR's history. It all started with some documents that could change everything. 23XI Racing and Front Row Motorsports have presented what they're calling smoking gun documents in a courtroom that's already witnessed its share of twists and turns. These documents, which remain sealed for now, are believed to be internal communications from NASCAR itself. According to legal filings, these documents could expose the lengths to which NASCAR has gone to preserve its monopoly on the sport, and they could be a game changer in the ongoing antitrust lawsuit. The teams argue that NASCAR is not just trying to protect its business model, they're using their power to systematically eliminate competition, stifling growth for teams like 23XI and Front Row. These internal documents, if they become public, could provide solid proof of these claims and potentially trigger a landmark antitrust ruling that could force NASCAR to change its ways. This is a crucial part of the case. It's not just a battle for charters anymore. It's a fight for fair competition within NASCAR, and what these documents reveal could decide whether the sport continues to operate as a monopoly or if new teams are given a fighting chance to break in. Meanwhile, NASCAR is pushing forward with its plans to sell charters that 23XI and Front Row insist are rightfully theirs. The legal saga took another twist just days ago when NASCAR filed its intent to sell one of these disputed charters to a new team for the 2026 season. The teams immediately filed for an emergency injunction seeking to block the sale until the court hears their full case in December. Their argument is simple. If the charter is sold before the case is resolved, there will be nothing left to save. Without a charter, 23XI and Front Row would lose their guaranteed spot on the grid, their television revenue, and most crucially, the sponsorship deals that keep their operations running. The loss of these charters could set off a chain reaction that would leave the teams without drivers, sponsors, and ultimately, without a business. This is where the case gets personal. In legal filings, both teams state bluntly that they are facing the imminent destruction of their businesses, regardless of the court's eventual ruling. Sponsors are already exploring their exit strategies, and the legal documents make it clear, once these sponsors and drivers walk away, they're not coming back. At the core of this legal battle is the concept of charters, the system NASCAR introduced in 2016 to guarantee teams a spot on the starting grid for each race. But what was supposed to be a simple system to ensure stability has become the center of a larger issue. The charter system is no longer just about securing a race spot. It's about guaranteeing revenue, TV exposure, and the lifeblood of modern racing, sponsorship. When 23XI and Front Row chose not to sign the latest charter agreement that would lock teams into the system through 2031, they forfeited the charters they had held under the previous system. NASCAR, citing a technicality, decided to reassign these charters to other teams, leaving 23XI and Front Row on the outside looking in. It's here that things get murky. NASCAR is pushing hard to sell these charters, claiming it's in the best interest of the sport to have these seats filled by new teams for 2026. But 23XI and Front Row argue that this isn't just a business decision, it's a deliberate attempt to eliminate competition. By selling these charters, NASCAR could not only cripple these teams, but send a strong message to others. Comply with NASCAR's rules or risk being left out. Naturally, NASCAR's defense boils down to one central claim: we're not a monopoly. NASCAR's legal team insists that the sanctioning body isn't abusing its power, pointing to other racing series and circuits as evidence of competitive alternatives. For example, the CRS Tour, led by Dale Earnhardt Jr. and Kevin Harvick, has emerged as a potential rival to the NASCAR Cup Series, along with various late model and dirt track circuits that NASCAR claims provide other options for drivers and teams. But 2311 and Front Row aren't buying it. Their argument is simple. Dirt track racing and local circuits are not substitutes for NASCAR's top-tier events. The revenue, prestige, and exposure that come with being in the Cup Series are irreplaceable. Without the charter system, they argue, a team becomes nothing more than a well-funded outsider with no access to NASCAR's biggest races, no guaranteed TV contracts, and no ability to secure major sponsorships. The reality is that the charter system is everything for modern teams. It's a guarantee that a team will have a place at the table, which, in an era dominated by corporate sponsorships and media rights, is critical to survival. Take that away, and a team becomes irrelevant. This battle isn't just about 23XI and Front Row anymore. It's a message to every team in NASCAR. Do what NASCAR wants, or face the risk of being excluded from the sport's biggest stages. While 13 of the 15 chartered teams have already signed on to the new agreement, 23XI and Front Row have refused to buckle under the pressure. And they argue that signing under duress, under the threat of losing everything, doesn't count as voluntary agreement. Instead, it's coercion. That's what makes this case so crucial. If 2311 and Front Row are forced out of the sport, it could set a dangerous precedent. The next step could be the complete consolidation of NASCAR's control, leaving only a select few teams with any say in the sport's future. For the smaller, independent teams, the future could look grim if NASCAR is allowed to keep pushing its agenda unchecked. As the case progresses, NASCAR's internal documents remain under wraps, but the impact of their release could be monumental. If the team's claims about the smoking gun documents are true, it could bring NASCAR's practices under intense scrutiny. These documents could reveal whether NASCAR has been using its power to systematically block competitors, manipulate race schedules, and control the flow of money into the sport. What's at stake is far more than the future of 2311 racing and Front Row motorsports. This is a fight for the future of NASCAR itself, a chance to redefine the competitive landscape of stock car racing. The upcoming hearings, including a critical one in Charlotte, will likely decide the direction of the sport for years to come. As we wait for the next round of legal proceedings, one thing is clear: the battle between NASCAR and these two teams is far from over. With so much at stake, expect this fight to continue making headlines in the weeks to come. So what's next in this legal showdown? The next big date is Thursday, when a federal judge in Charlotte will hear arguments on whether or not to grant the emergency injunction that could block the sale of the disputed charter. Depending on the outcome, the decision could come quickly, or it could take weeks to unfold. Either way, this is a flashpoint moment for NASCAR. If NASCAR is allowed to sell the charter, the clock will start ticking on the future of 2311 and Front Row. But if the judge blocks the sale, NASCAR will be forced to continue dealing with two teams actively suing them in open court. No matter what happens, this case will change NASCAR as we know it. And whether it leads to a complete overhaul of the sport or just some temporary solutions, one thing is clear: the future of NASCAR and the future of the teams involved hangs in the balance.